Hello guys, welcome. This is Deepika from mytutorialrack.com and I'm here with another interview question. And the question is, how does an exception propagate in the code? So for example here, let's say you have a method 3. Okay, this is the name of the method, and this method has a potential of throwing an exception. Let's say an exception has occurred in this particular method. So what happens is, let's say method 3 is being called from method 2. Now method 2 is calling method 3, and if this method 3 has a potential of throwing an exception, what can do is method 2 can have a try catch block, and if that method 3 caused any exception, then the catch block will handle the exception. That is one way of doing things. The other way is, let's say method 2 did not have a try catch block and method 3 threw an exception, and since method 2 is not able to handle it, if let's say method 2 is being called by method 1, then method 1 can have a try catch block. And if let's say method 1 also stops or method 1 also doesn't have the try catch block, let's say the execution went to the main method, and now main method can have a try catch block, and let's say if main also decided I don't want to handle this exception, then the JVM is the one who is going to throw that exception. Okay, so this is the chain of command that goes through when you are propagating an exception. So let's go ahead and talk about the theory here. When an exception occurs, first it searches to locate the matching catch block. So first, wherever an exception occurs, and whatever the type of the exception it is, if you have a corresponding catch block to handle that exception, that's where that catch block will get executed. But if you decide that, okay, I don't want to handle that exception and there is no catch block, then your exception will propagate all the way to the top and JVM has to halt that program and throw that exception. In case the matching catch block is located, if that catch block is located, then that block would be executed, else the exception will propagate through the method call stack and goes into the caller method. So whoever has called the method, the execution goes there and it checks for the catch block over there also. And if it doesn't find, then that exception will be thrown to the method calling this particular method, and where the process of matching the catch block is performed again. This propagation happens until the matching catch block is found, and if the match is not found, then the program gets terminated in the main method. So you have the different ways of handling. If you're using a try catch block, exception has been handled right away, and then you can proceed with the rest of the program. If you are not having a catch block, then that whole exception will be propagated all the way to the main method and the program is going to be terminated. Now let me give you a pictorial representation here. So let's say over here you can see exception, let's say, has occurred at method number 3. Okay, and you have a main method is calling method number 1, method 1 is calling method number 2, and method 2 is calling method number 3, and this is where your exception has occurred. Now first it will look for, does this particular method has a try catch block, and if it doesn't, then whoever is calling this method, which is method number 2, it will look for try catch block over here, and if there is found a catch block, then it is going to execute that catch block and exception has been handled. Now let's say there was no catch block matching to it, and now what happens is method 1 is calling method 2, and now method 1 can have a try catch block, and if it didn't find over here also a matching catch block, then that execution is going to come all the way to the main method, and now main method can have a try catch block. But if let's say even main method doesn't have it, then it is going to terminate your program right away, or it will go to the JVM and JVM gets its exception and it throws that exception on the screen, okay, and terminates your program. So this is how the exception propagations works from top to bottom. So, or whichever method throws the exception can have a try catch block, and right away the exception will be thrown and catch block will be there to handle it. And if let's say that method does not have the mechanism to handle the exception, then method number 2, which basically is calling the method number 3, can have that try catch block and they can actually handle that exception. And if method number 2 does not handle it, then execution is going to go to method number 1, which is basically calling the method number 2. then method 1 can have a try catch block. And if method 1 also decides that, okay, I don't want to handle it, then the call will go to the main method, and now main method can have a try catch block. And if let's say main also doesn't have a try catch block, then what happens is the call will go to the JVM, and JVM is going to handle that exception in its own way and will terminate the program. So this is how the propagation of exceptions work in Java. I hope you enjoyed this interview question, and I'm going to see you in the next question. Thank you so much.